this whole weekend slate. Basically, we're going to go through each NFL game, and we're going to talk about each of them. So it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I know Sheets likes these small slates, and you get the showdowns on top of it, so it should be a good time.
Well, the reason why we're doing it this way, I mean, there's a lot of different permutations to the way you can play. So you could play the 2-game slate Saturday. You could play a 6-game slate that encompasses Saturday through Monday. You could play the Sundays. So just in case we don't go live, just in case we don't want whatever, I want to go over something. Now, I'm going to be available Sunday at least.
Yeah.
At 11. And I might actually be available Saturday, an hour before that as well.
Let us know, because I know Rhodey's doing one at 3 Eastern tomorrow, and then Brandon and I are doing one at 2 Eastern tomorrow.
Oh.
So we're just adding the extra stuff here.
Well, I'll let you know when I'll pop in, whatever. Okay.
Yeah. We'll all be on there, so if you want to jump in.
So what's interesting, okay, so let's talk about tomorrow first. If I told you, like, at the beginning of the year, whatever, that there'd be like a 2-game slate, and Miami and Kansas City would be one of the games, and Cleveland, Houston would be the other, and we'd be worrying whether Miami, Kansas City were going to score enough to keep up, like nobody would have believed that. Right. But with the weather, it's going to be 0 degrees in Kansas City, and listen, you can talk about how people maybe estimate the weather, or they over project how it affects, and they get scared a little bit too much. But you say what you want. 0 degrees is 0 degrees, and it's tough to catch a freaking football when it's rock hard solid. When at 0 degrees, and it's just the way it is.
Well, they're also saying negative 35 with wind chill. They're saying it's potentially the coldest game in the history of the NFL.
And the fact is, you got Cleveland, Houston in the freaking dome with the 2 gunslingers, Joe Flacco, C.J. Stroud. Whatever. So let's talk about it. So what do you think of Cleveland and Houston for openers?
So I actually have a pretty strong take on a lot of games this week. This is the one I have the hardest time with. Because I actually like Cleveland a lot. And I'm a little concerned that maybe I'm a little too – I love Stroud so much, and I believe in him, and Houston at home. But that defense for Cleveland, if this game was in Cleveland, I wouldn't even think twice. Whatever. Make them -4.5. I just think Cleveland would smash them. If this game in the Dome in Houston, where they played really well, especially that offense, I'm a little concerned. But I do have Cleveland. I like Cleveland minus the points. I like Cleveland to win this game. I think Cleveland's a real contender. And I really, look, the chalk is going to be something that makes them plenty of sense to me. Flacco to Cooper, Flacco to Njoku, Flacco to Elijah Moore. All these guys I'm very, very high on. I am also my I guess get a little bit different play would be Kareem Hunt instead of Jerome Ford, but I think both are completely viable. And I think this is where you're going to get a lot of your activity. And on the Houston side, I think that it's going to be Dalton Schultz is going to be the chalky one. Everybody's going to play Collins because they don't want to pay up for the receivers in the later game. Just to keep that in mind. And Collins has one of the toughest individual matchups in all of football. So just throwing that out there, maybe playing, Rashee Rice instead of him at lower ownership is an interesting way to go, even in that cold weather. But so Collins and Schultz will be, they're all going to be really popular. And then Singletary is going to be the massive chalk. I'm more okay with fading Singletary and playing the guys from this on the 2-gamer from the Miami. I'll play the running backs in the Miami KC game over Singletary. At his crazy ownership, but even still, I'm going to have some exposure from Singletary. And then if you have to decide between Hutchinson and Michi, which you probably don't need save that much money, I would go Hutchinson, but I don't have an incredibly strong take on that. So that's sort of my overall outlook of this whole game.
Yeah, you're going to hear a lot about how Cleveland's defense was significantly worse on the road than it is at home. Don't believe too much of that crap. Okay. Right. They're really tough. And just because they give up points, doesn't necessarily mean that their defense was bad necessarily. First of all, one of those games, their offense gave up like 2 pick sixes.
Yeah, that's right.
So in any case, look, the weather's good. We know where the targets are going, and what you're looking at here is some derivative of this is the chalk build in the 2-game slate. Pacheco as the best running back, and then Cooper Njoku, Cooper Moore, Collins to run back. Nah, you need to do some funny stuff to make this work. But you could pay down. You could play any defense you want in this game, and you could play one of these other Houston guys like Hutchinson or whatever. They're cheap, or Mechie's cheap. So this is what's going to be what most people play. Do you have it in you to say F the weather and just go crazy with Miami? Maybe. I don't know. We'll talk about that when we get there. But the Cleveland-Houston thing, it looks very straightforward. Both quarterbacks are going to look good. Collins is going to look good. Cooper's going to look good, and Joker's going to look good. You can play Schultz if you want. Singletary is fine, but I agree with you, Bobby. I would prefer to, play the running backs in the game where they're going to. I mean, is there anybody that seems more perfectly like anatomically designed for like this game than like Isaiah Pacheco? You know what I mean? Like this is like what he's been waiting for the whole season, like 0 degrees where they should be jamming it 30 times against an injured Miami defense, by the way.
Right.
Okay, so anyways, so this is the chalk build, and if you want to get different in the 2-game slate, you probably can't do this. But these are the best plays, and when we do lineup construction, we'll probably talk about something else.
Yeah, and I thought I'd throw out a couple of interesting, like just maybe showdown stuff for this game.
Yep.
I think that for the Cleveland side, I would encourage using, and I actually think this is not against the rules, by the way, in regular, to play David Bell.
Who's that?
He's the other receiver for Cleveland.
Okay.
So I would probably get to a little bit of David Bell in the showdown Cedric Tillman is out. And David Bell he had 2 touchdowns the last game of the season. But I would incorporate him into your mix, probably more for the showdown. I also think for showdown that you want to consider, like, I do think I would put Michi and Hutchinson a little bit higher on my showdown list than they are for the 2-gamer. I also would probably get to some Bevin Jordan. And then my other note was Harrison Bryant, which I already kind of mentioned. So.
And obviously, if Noah Brown is in, he's playable.
If Noah Brown is in, he's in everywhere. Yeah, I'm not all for that.
So, I mean, there are going to be lineups literally look like this. Like Moore, Njoku, Cooper, Collins, Noah Brown, Pacheco with Flacco, and a cheap defense and one of the other running backs. This is extraordinarily easy to do. So you have to decide if that's what you want to do. It's easy to do, but that doesn't mean it's going to win, and you're going to be fighting with a lot of people for builds like this. And listen, and if you think that it's going to be particularly unique to play like 3 and 3, no. I mean, that's what people are doing nowadays. They're overstacking these games, and because that's what people are learning to do, it makes sense. So now, if you didn't want to do any of that, you could just completely go different, and in the Miami-Kansas City game, say, put your head in the sand and say, F the weather. I still have Tyreek Hill. I still have Travis Kelce at my disposal. I still might have Jalen Waddle maybe, right? He's questionable. And maybe just say, screw the weather and just cram those guys in. And then we play Jerome Ford and you know what I mean, and Cleveland defense on the road, and do something like that. So as I mentioned that, why don't we get into this Kansas City Miami game? Obviously, to me, Pacheco is the easiest play, and then there's 2 other easier plays for me would be Kelce and Hill, from Kansas City. What are you thinking about this game?
Yeah, I think the easiest plays are the running backs for Miami. And I think that it's Pacheco. It's all the running backs for me. First of all, Miami definitely wants to run the ball anyway. And this is not the same offense at the beginning of the year. And in this weather, Tua, for what it's worth, I also really do like Kansas City in this game. Tua has never won a game under 40 degrees in his life. So I will, and I believe in that stuff. I 100% buy into the weather stuff for a guy who's playing in South Florida. And has never had to play a cold weather game. Never had to win never won a cold weather game. He literally has never won one under 40. And 40 is not even that. Like, this is going to be negative 35.
Not only that, but he throws like a softball. You know what I mean? Like,
well, he has a cannon, but I know what you're saying though. Like, it's not like he has a cannon, but he has to release it from the exact part of the pocket. He can't be on the move at all.
Yeah.
What's weird is that Tyreek is still like, let's play Tyreek. Tyreek's still going to be 50% owned. Like, it's not like you need to spend money somewhere, so people are going to do that. I'm going to suggest that we play A-Chain and Mostert. I think you can play them together because of the nature of the slate, and I actually would lean more on the A-Chain right now. I think they're both playing hurt. Well, Mostert's definitely banged up. I think A-Chain is playing hurt. So those two with Pacheco are my favorite running backs, and I'm sort of less interested a little bit in the running backs in the first game outside of the Kareem Hunt to get different play. I'm trying to find things to do to get creative, and one thing you can do is we have the cheapest tight end available is in this game. He's had a few more looks lately. He's 3K. Tight ends can tend to get a little bit more work when the weather is like this. Yeah. So something to consider. I love Kelsey for what it's worth. Unfortunately, he's going to be popular. I think that's what you're going to see a lot of. And unfortunately, Rashee Rice is going to be popular. So I'm really struggling here to try to find something different. Maybe you hope Mecole Hardman runs a kickoff back or something like that. But really having a hard time getting different on this two-gamer, which I didn't even feel towards the end of the regular season when we had the two-gamers. I really feel like it's hard outside of maybe the construction-wise, maybe playing A-Chain and Mostert together is not a bad idea. That's pretty much all I could figure out that made enough sense to me. I can't get to Clyde Edwards-Helaire because I would rather play Kareem Hunt than him. And it's just tough, man. It's tough to find anything to really, really like here. I think Justin Watson would be the other desirable cheap receiver. He's also a big target, so he might act as if act sort of like a tight end here. Super creative, Noah Gray for showdown for sure. But I don't have part of the thing that's bothering me. I don't have a really low owned play on this whole slate that I can get behind, which is going to force me into making some really weird plays like with David Bell and Cedric Wilson Jr. and Mecole Hardman or MVS. It's just really, really hard to get different.
You also play. I mean, if you really want to get weird, I mean, you could play Noah Gray, for Kansas City.
That's what I just said. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said David Bell. I didn't hear you say
Noah Gray, then Blake Bell for showdown. But
Blake Bell. Okay.
Noah Gray is Noah Gray is one way to get a little different, and I don't think it's that bad. But the problem is, what am I spending up for? Because everything you need to spend up for, I don't like. I don't like Nico Collins in his matchup. I don't like Tyreek Hill in this weather.
Oh, I'd like to push back. Not push back. I just like
to please.
About the Detroit, about the Nico Collins thing. From what I read and what I heard, that cornerback from Cleveland actually just peeks the side of the field. So if Houston wants, they could isolate Collins away from him. So maybe that makes the matchup not quite as bad. But then again, if Cleveland knows this, then they'll plan for that as well.
No, but their other corners are great too. So
I thought it was just that one guy from Cleveland.
Well, no, number one receivers. It's literally the worst team to throw on, in the NFL.
Okay.
So it's just tough for number one receivers. Which is So I'm just saying. So all of the spend ups at receiver, the only one that actually like I would be playing on a real slate would be Cooper, and he's gonna be really popular, obviously, but. Rice, Collins, and Hill, I just feel like there's plenty of paths. So maybe that's one other thing you could do is leave some money on the table, I guess.
I would also say something else, okay? And we talked about this before NBA playoffs, right? So listen, the playoffs are just different. And even though they don't have a whole series to prepare for, you're preparing for even more violently than normal. You're preparing for a specific game or a specific team. And Cleveland and Houston, they played before, okay? And Amari Cooper caught for 475,000 yards, right? So you'd like to think that this guy from Houston, who might very well be one of the Coach of the Year candidates, is going to figure out that he's supposed to, listen, I'll let freaking Jerome Ford beat me. I'm going to bracket freaking Cooper and keep an eye on Njoku. And you think they would scheme for that, okay? So if you are playing Cooper at 80% ownership, keep in mind that
Cooper though is projected less to own than the other guy, or right about the same as the other guy.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, that's the problem. But I hear you. But even still, even the pivots off of him, because that means you're playing Elijah Moore, and then he's going to be really high. It's just
right.
There's not the natural thing, and
like I said, you could just play Tua, Waddle, and Hill.
But even that's not unknown. Waddle's projected at almost 30%. Tyreek Hill's projected at like 60. Tyreek Hill still might end up being the highest owned player on the slate. Like, that's crazy. And I love Tyreek Hill if this matchup, if it wasn't negative 35. That's my issue. Negative 35 with the wind chill makes it tough. But I still think that probably he's the one I'll side with, just because I know no matter what, he's ending up with fantasy points, because they're gonna throw him little bubble screens that they have to. He's getting the ball 10 times at least.
Yeah. All right. So Pittsburgh, Buffalo, and are you playing anybody from Pittsburgh in this game?
So let me jump over, because I'm on the double screen here.
But this game is going to be snow and wind and Buffalo and Buffalo-ness, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's a rough spot for Pittsburgh, to say the least. What they have going for them is, they have a game script. So if you want to play stuff like Pickens or Freiermuth or whatever, you'd like to think that they're going to have to be throwing the ball eventually. Or, if you think Pittsburgh can hang in there, it's going to be because they can get that freaking running game going. So you want to play like a Najee Harris or something like that, you could take a shot. But boy, oh boy, that's a rough spot going into Buffalo like that. So I don't know what I'm getting there. And the next question is how much you scared about the weather to play Buffaloes, to play Josh Allen, to play Diggs. You could certainly play James Cook, right? But you're going to play the skill guys from Buffalo in the game where it might have a bad game script for you eventually in bad weather.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So on the Pittsburgh side, I understand they have a 12.5 point total. Give me the over on that one. Buffalo being as big a favorite as they are, what are they, 10-point favorites?
Yeah.
Egregious. But Buffalo is nothing. I don't care if they win the Super Bowl this year. This team just plays to their competition. I don't know how many times we had to say this over and over again. They just play to their competition all the time. We just saw the Chargers and Patriots almost beat them. Literally, flukily, they won those games. And while they're on this, they're coming in hot down the stretch and all this stuff. Yeah, they're coming in hot, beating those teams by a combined 3 points. I am not going to make the mistake of overly respecting Buffalo. So I am going to play Najee Harris or Jaylen Warren in most of my lineups.
Nice. And
I'm leaning more towards the Najee side. The get weird play, because both those guys will have some ownership for me, is Pat Freiermuth. Again, cold weather, the ugly game, and I could see a lot of dump downs to the tight end in this situation. So Freiermuth at 3,600 is my get weird on Pittsburgh side. Now, at the same time, I am going to absolutely force in Josh Allen. Now, I don't want to even say the word stacks, because it really is just playing Josh Allen, because he could run for 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
The upside he has here is tremendous. So I will actually be overweight him, and I will probably be underweight all the receivers. Shakir is hard to ignore because he's been their number 1 receiver, and he's 3,400. With no Gabe Davis, who would have been my favorite play. But so Shakir would be my favorite of the receivers. I don't think I'm going to get to Stephon Diggs, but neither will anyone else if anyone wants to, do that. But I just personally am not going to get there. I would be very concerned about the Cook situation. To me, he has done absolutely nothing. There was the one game, and it's like, oh, new coaching staff, this is what's going to happen. Nope. Ever since then, done absolutely nothing. Leonard Fournette is now in the mix, getting carries. I'm worried about it. I'm still probably going to do some of it, because I just think these teams are going to end up trying to run the ball. The only thing that is for the Buffalo side, the running the ball, is probably going to be Josh Allen running the ball. And then you could mention the Pittsburgh receivers, because you have great prices, but can you bet on George Pickens? Can you bet on Deontay Johnson here? I don't know if I can.
No, that's tough. I mean, Buffalo's going to drop back in their freaking zone. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be tough to get much of anywhere.
Yeah, and you can run the ball on Buffalo, so I think
that's what they're going to do, I think.
Yep, I think so too. Well, we get the nice dome game next, Sheets. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, we got 2 of them coming up. Two of them coming up, and Dallas, you have CeeDee Lamb, who's got a 30-point floor. What are you going to do? Kind of have to play him, as far as I'm concerned. It's going to be a tough spot for Green Bay. I've heard some takes that they might be live here. I don't know, man. I know Dallas has not done the best against better teams. Is Green Bay a better team? I don't know. They're certainly improved. Jordan Love has certainly improved. They have some. Listen, they got some dudes. They got some younger guys at receiver. With a healthy Reed and a healthy Dontavian Wicks. And if in fact, what's his name, Christian Watson plays, I mean, this is Dallas got to be on their toes. Love's had a good year. He could fling the ball around a little bit. And don't get too confident, Dallas. But all of that is just another way of just reaffirming the fact that I think that CeeDee Lamb is just. If you could find a way to play him, and these targets and these numbers are just kind of obscene. 13 targets and 13 receptions, by the way, in his last game.
Yeah.
Didn't get the 100 yards, but he did manage a crisp 227 the week before that when the team only scored 20 points.
Right.
So, so he's the guy you probably want to get into your lineups. Pollard, I guess, but I got better ideas for running back. So for me, it's going to be CeeDee Lamb. Yeah, you could play Cooks if you want, but again, in the playoffs, you just, you're going to go with what works, and I think it's going to be a whole heaping bunch of CeeDee Lamb. Now they're going to have that dude on him, right? But I just don't think it's going to make much of a difference. On the Green Bay side, game script. You want to pick one of those receivers, but now if in fact Christian Watson is back, now you have 3 guys to pick from. So it makes it a little harder. I don't think I'm going to play Aaron Jones in this spot. I don't know. What do you like here?
Yeah, so first, I do like Dallas to win the game. There's a lot of buzz going on about Green Bay right now, and the spread being only 7 here. I love Dallas -7. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope Green Bay wins. There's a lot of buzz going on, and honestly, if you told me this game, if this game was played 4 weeks ago in the regular season, I think Dallas would have been 13-point favorites.
Yep.
And I'm a little surprised by this number being as low as it is. So I like the idea of a Dallas hammer stack. I really do. I like going with Dak to CD to Ferguson. Now I'm not getting very different by doing that, but the other thing is Pollard. It's a good spot, but Pollard, I mean. How many times are we going to do this to ourselves, man? It's been a very frustrating year for a guy I was super high on. Aaron Jones, I'm probably going to be below the field on that. I will play the Packers passing game, assuming that they're playing from behind. And I really like the idea of Dak getting maybe multiple receivers even from Green Bay. Jaden Reed is the number 1. Tucker Kraft is number 2 at tight end. And then you have the Melton, Watson, Dobbs, Wicks, which no projection system and none of, including myself, or no person seems to know what to do with all these guys. So they just sort of middled out their projection.
Just play the Reed and Wicks, I think. I don't know.
But when we say play the Reed and Wicks is their 5th receiver. Christian Watson is their number 1 receiver. And Romeo Dobbs was their number 2 receiver. And then Jaden Reed took over. So, and Melton is the young guy. So it's really, really, really hard to know. But I think the safest one is Jaden Reed and Tucker Kraft.
Tucker Kraft. I didn't think of that.
At tight end, Tucker Kraft, and you play the Dallas stack with to me it would be Ferguson. So you double tight end with Ferguson, Lamb, Dak. Nothing special with it. I would get some mix of Brandon Cooks in there, and I will probably be below the field on Pollard. I kind of want to be below the field on Aaron Jones too. So I'm going to be playing running backs, I guess maybe more in the Pittsburgh game and the Buffalo game. But if I had to pick one, I would pick Pollard over Jones, even though both don't make me feel great.
Can you play Jordan Love by himself?
That's things I don't think you ever want to do that because these receivers are so cheap. The upside is tremendous.
I guess so.
But I mean, I get the idea, you know what I mean? Because there's so many guys to choose from.
Exactly.
It's not going to be spread out though. It's just the projections have it spread out.
It's going to be, someone's going to get the 2 touchdowns. We just don't know which one it's going to be.
Right. And Jaden Reed would be the logical one for me. But this is definitely a game. These 2 games, this is a slate where we're going to have a lot of things you can do because there's a lot of plays all 5 of those guys are seriously in consideration. Jaden Reed, again, the best one. But even the Dallas side, Lamb, Cooks, Ferguson, Pollard, they're all terrific plays. They're all going to be owned. There's a lot of stuff you can do on this slate, and then we get to my Rams in the late one.
Yeah, I like Detroit here, but can't be completely confident. I mean, Rams, if all these guys are healthy now, I don't know when the last time the Rams had all their guys healthy, for real.
Yeah.
And so I think the spread of 3, if that's what it is still, 3.5, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think it's 3.
I think it's 3. I don't think I think when it was 3.5, I figured that people would try the Rams at 3.5. I think 3 is probably about accurate. I would normally just say, let's just play Kyren Williams, right? But I think that if Kupp and Nakua are both healthy, it's not. I just don't think it's the same type of thing. I still think that Kyren Williams is a really good play. Maybe the best running back actually still. But I don't know. You tell me. Like, is Kupp ready to do Kupp things? I mean, he hasn't really yet. But listen, he's been.
Well, it doesn't really matter because the Detroit is the best run defense in football.
Even better then. Okay, fine. I guess play both the Rams guys. Maybe not together, but and then on Detroit, I mean, they can put up points in the dome, and St. Brown 8K is what's his name back? Jameson Williams, dude. I mean, that's we did the whole season, right? This is it. This is the payoff. He's 35 in the playoffs. Let's go.
That's right.
That's the end of the story.
And we won't get another chance after this week because the Rams are winning this football game. And
fair enough. Whatever.
Yeah. I have a very strong take that the Rams win this football game. I think that it's literally the nightmare of all nightmares. You have one of the worst X and O's game coaches against probably the best in McVay. You have McVay going against his former quarterback, who he knows better than anyone exactly how to get pressure on him, which Bill Belichick so kindly showed us in the Super Bowl a few years ago, and how you can negate Jared Goff. Not to mention the Rams are also an elite. These are both elite run defenses, absolutely top of the line elite. Now Kyren Williams, you're still going to have to mix in because the ceiling is and the touches, the floor is so high, and the ceiling and the touch, he's just going to get a million. His usage is going to be a million, or his opportunity is going to be a million. But I think they're gonna end up throwing the ball more. I think they're gonna pick up that it's hard to run the ball, and I don't mind the Dallas triple stack. The Rams triple stack with Stafford to Robinson, Nakua, and Kupp. I don't think that's absolute. I think it's absolutely reasonable. Robinson is a terrific value. You could play him and Shakir in the first game was 3,400, and it allows you to do whatever you want. I have no issue ever playing guys like Kupp and Nakua because they have big plays in them. Don't get me wrong, but they also are somewhat of possession receivers. Well, they can each catch 10 balls, and we've seen similar stuff like that. And on a 3-game slate, that's probably going to be pretty good. Again, I'll be underweight on Kyren Williams because I have a lot of respect for Detroit's run defense, but I still am going to have some exposure. Tyler Higbee is the one I thought was going to be sneaky. I don't know how sneaky he'll be. I think that Freiermuth is going to be the sneaky one because I think that people are going to play Kraft and Higbee who spend down. But Stafford likes Higbee. We've seen him in a lot of big spots before. Detroit's pass defense is god awful. So I am in on the Rams passing attack, and on the other side, I think the way to beat the Rams is throwing the ball. You really have a hard time. It's really hard to run on them, and because we have split running backs, that's why I find myself so heavily on the two Pittsburgh guys because I'm looking at it like I think Gibbs is the right play if you're choosing between the two for Detroit, but it is hard to run the ball in the Rams. They're a good run defense. I still end up with some of the Gibbs and some of the Montgomery. But mostly it's going to be the passing game for me over here as well. I'm fully in on Jameson Williams. Sadly, I think he's going to end up getting a little bit, as you would call the hipster play this week. But Jameson Williams over DeMarcus Robinson, I don't think people will do. I think they might play both of them together. I think mostly people will side with Robinson. And I think some people are going to play Josh Reynolds. I'm personally on the Jameson Williams side all the way. I didn't get to that much Amon-Ra in my first builds. And that is something I don't feel great about. So I'm probably going to have to rebuild and force in Amon-Ra St. Brown. But I guess maybe the most interesting piece is what do we do with Laporta looking doubtful at the moment?
Although really? I thought that he practiced today or something.
Oh, did he? I mean, he's got a projection of 0.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. But if he's out, I don't know if you want to overly go crazy with it. But I do think Brock Wright would be the preferred of the two between he and Mitchell. but it doesn't feel great. So I would probably skip it from tight end. Actually, you know what? I think I would only play the tight end if it's Laporta and he plays. But I love Laporta, and if that's the case, I love Laporta. As of right now, I've got it St. Brown, Jameson Williams, but this is my favorite game on the slate and the one I expect to be close and competitive. Well, ish. I really, really think that this is like, I'll actually be surprised if the Rams lose personally. I just think head coaching really, really matters. And as much as I really, really like the coach for Detroit, I do think that X's and O's and game planning and he did some of the dumbest things we've ever seen. Talking about Dan Campbell that we've ever seen. So I just think this is a mismatch of coaches, and the Rams are healthier than they've been. I think the Rams have a great shot to win this game, and I think the Rams have a great shot to continue moving on after this week.
All right, so I have an opinion, even though it's part of like the Monday game. Okay, I'll say this: I've seen enough. Okay, and I know what I saw, and I will just put it to you this way: if the Philadelphia Eagles can just miraculously stop this ridiculously just awful momentum and performance they've had in the last month and a half, pretty much, they're going to have to beat me. I think Tampa Bay just crushes them.
Can I ask you a question about that, though? Because I've heard other people say this. Why does anybody like Tampa Bay, who's terrible and hasn't crushed anybody all season?
I just don't think Philadelphia's defense can stop anybody.
Right, but we just saw Tampa Bay. They couldn't score on Carolina. Like
I get it. I don't know.
They must win.
I saw Philadelphia have to pull all their guys against the freaking Giants. You know what I mean? Like it's
the defense is horrible right now.
I just think that Mike Evans can get 200 yards in this game or whatever. So this is probably not. It's not going to be part of that many of the classic slates or whatever it is. But listen, props to Philly if they can do this. It's just very rare that teams just completely just back into the playoffs like this. And just completely turn it around like that.
That's what Tampa Bay did. That's the only problem.
I get it. But yeah.
Well, we can make a wager on this one because I'm very much on the opposite side of this one.
No, I don't know. They wanted to get in there. I don't know. It's good.
They beat Carolina by 9-0 in a game they should have lost.
Yeah.
By a miracle that they won 9-0.
All right, we're in for $1 on this one. I don't know. I honestly don't know how Philadelphia's favored in this game. To be perfectly
honest. I'll tell you why. Because you have not watched Tampa Bay play. They are.
I guess not.
They are terrible.
I guess not.
But I agree with all of your points about Philadelphia. I just am not letting it get to me against Tampa Bay.
Devontae Smith practiced in full. That's obviously good for Philly. AJ Brown. How about Julio Jones getting some touchdowns a couple of games ago? That was fun.
Yeah, that was wild.
That was fun. In a loss at home to Arizona, by the way. Yeah, I don't know. So listen, it's not going to be the part of that many classic slates. We'll give this one another run on Monday. And maybe I changed my mind. I talked about this before a couple of weeks ago. Listen, I'll give the same take before. I said this verbatim, so I apologize. But listen, 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, when Baker Mayfield was completely out of the league for good reason. Okay, like the Rams had just nobody to put under quarterback, so they said, Baker just come on in here and just take some snaps or whatever. And he had one miracle comeback or whatever it is, and they basically gave him a shot to get back in the league. And I just have this vision of after what was obviously going to be his last game with them, or even before. He just gets all the team and all management together and say, dude, guys, thank you so much. You know what I mean? For getting me a shot, getting me back in the league, because I was going to be freaking bagging groceries in the next 3 weeks from now. Yeah. And he's made it work, man. He got himself a situation. He's got some skill guys, and I like him. So I'm actually rooting for him. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I do want to throw out this one thing, though, that I would caution anybody who sports bets in general. Be very wary of narratives and things you hear on the radio over and over again about how Philly sucks so much that the Bucs are going to beat them. The Bucs have not handily beaten anybody all season long.
Nobody.
Anybody. They had one game, and anybody they did, they won by a touchdown. They lost to that same team, and they've been terrible against any decent team except for the Jags. They had one game against the Jags. That was pretty much it. And the Jags, by that point, were the coldest team in the NFL. So
who do you think is a better I don't even know. I asked you who you like in this game. Who do you think is a more likely to win? Small road favorite, Philly or Cleveland?
Philly. Okay. It's very close for me.
Yeah, well, it's supposed to be close. They're like the same spread.
No, I mean, I guess I like Cleveland's team better, but I am not betting on Baker in a playoff game.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Probably ever. As much as we say Philly sucks, like Tampa Bay really sucks. Like they have no business being in the playoffs. Any other division in football, they would have been, the 18th or 20th best teams. Philadelphia is not the 18th best team in the NFL. As bad as they are better than the 18th best team in the NFL.
So it's pretty close for you there. And I'll ask you the same question for the other two spots. Who do you think is more live as a 10-point underdog or 7 to 10-point underdog, Green Bay or Pittsburgh?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Just because of Josh Allen and how much he turns the ball over and how Buffalo plays their competition, I guess I'd say Pittsburgh.
Yep.
That's my take. Anyway, guys, we'll be live. I'll be live with Brandon tomorrow at 2 Eastern. Sheets might pop in for one of them. Rody will be live at 3 Eastern. So we got a lot of stuff coming up, and then I'll be live with Sheets or alone or whoever at 11 a.m. on Sunday.
I'll be there Sunday with you.
I'm in there for that for sure. All right. Well, good luck to everybody, and